Edo State towards rapid industrialization appears to be one of the benefits of the Bua cement factory. And that's according to the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, who was present at the commissioning ceremony, which included governors, their deputies, ministers, royal fathers, and the vice president. Professor Yemi Osinbajo is optimistic that the 3 million ton capacity cement facility will boost the Nigerian economy.
Combination of investment and hard work. All roads for Bua Group and Edo State lead to the official commissioning of the Bua Obu Cement Factory in Okwela, Edo State.
Bought from reputable manufacturers in Europe.
The guest list reads like a who's who in the public-private sector, including Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi II, as well as captains of industry and other top government officials. The Vice President reiterates the commitment of the Buhari administration to the private sector.
Nigeria's economic emancipation and growth must be private sector-led and driven. There is simply no public sector resource that can match the resources, the drive, and the commitment of the private sector. So for us as a government, doing all we can to encourage investments of this type is not just a good idea. It is the cornerstone of our economic policy.
For the host governor, Godwin Obaseki, it portends a good era for the state's advancement.
We have never lost sight of the need to build a solid, productive, and integrated economy with the interest of our people at the core. That our reforms and innovations will produce long-lasting results that will grow the Edo economy and provide jobs and enhance our security.
The leadership of Bua Group and Bua Cement commend the support from the government.
The journey of the Nigerian integrated cement manufacturing, which took a new course just over a decade ago, has seen Nigeria move from a nation with under 3 million tons of production capacity to a country that will have some 45 million tons of cement manufacturing capacity by next year, implying about a 15-fold increase in capacities. This important feat has not only made Nigeria self-sufficient in cement production, but also a net exporter of cement.
The Bua Obu Cement Factory has a capacity of 3 million tons of cement per annum, and a notable feature is a 50-megawatt power plant constructed to meet its power needs and commitment to the highest standards.
The Vice President had his hands full today as he moved to Auchi to commission the Edo State Fertilizer and Chemical Company Limited, which is expected to boost self-sufficiency in agriculture and food security. Our correspondent, Gloria Omezuki, has this report.
Indigenes of Edo State heartily welcomed the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to the symbolic commissioning of the state fertilizer plant with a capital outlay of 2 billion naira. Members of Cabinet and State House of Assembly, as well as traditional rulers, were equally present.
I see this ceremony as an open call to other investors, not only in the agro-allied sector, but also in other areas that will break new grounds, bring in new technology, build the skills of our people, generate new jobs, provide goods and services that will enrich the markets and expand our economic opportunities.
For the benefit of the people of Auchi, Edo State, and all of Nigeria, and to the glory of God.
This project is in line with the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative launched by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2016 to drive down the cost of production and attract more investors.
It will bring us closer to self-sufficiency in fertilizer production, and perhaps most importantly, boost food production and reduce food prices, ultimately enhancing food security in Nigeria. To the extent that it makes imports unnecessary, this plan will also help us to conserve our hard-earned foreign exchange.
The Vice President takes a tour of the fertilizer plant, first commissioned by former President Olusegun Obasanjo 13 years ago. Since then, it has remained defunct. The plant's revival through a public-private partnership is guaranteed to create hundreds of direct jobs. Professor Osinbajo distributed bags of fertilizer to some local farmers, promising greater commitment by the federal government.
in the life of Edo women in agriculture is going to be a very good motivation. Everybody will come out, do 1 or 2 work. Our youth will be empowered by doing work here.
We want the state government, since they are stakeholders, to make sure that a system is put in place where the farmers can get this fertilizer very easily.
The commissioning of this fertilizer plan ultimately is part of this administration's drive towards achieving food self-sufficiency and economic diversification through agriculture. From Auchi in Edo State, Gloria Umezuki reporting for Channels Television News.
Buy made in Nigerian goods, that's the message the federal government is trying to drum into the ears of every citizen. And we'll be giving us the details on Business News.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Melinda. And yes, we begin business news with the federal government plans to look into the margin of preference for purchase of locally made goods and services in order to achieve full objective of the Executive Order 3. This resolve was reached at a session between some industrialists and representatives of the federal government in Lagos. Our correspondent Temple Ashaju reports.
The Vice President Yemi Osinbajo signed Nigeria's Executive Order 3 in May. The order targets the ease of doing business by creating access to markets and promoting the use of local content. At this dialogue session between some industrialists and representatives of government, entrepreneurs have the opportunity to voice their concerns.
Networking opportunity.
It begins with explanations on the relationship between the executive order and the manufacturing sector, presented by the Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Aisha Abubakar.
What this means is that all NDAs shall grant preference in their procurement processes to made in Nigeria products of at least 40%. This is therefore a huge opportunity for all businesses in Nigeria to vie for government procurement.
The entrepreneurs are seemingly pleased with the guidelines on procurement, but have concerns around the margin of preference for made in Nigeria goods.
I do remember there was an event we had here where one of the top officials of the federal government told us that they have even given us 35%. So I'm surprised to hear that it's still 10%.
Even this 30%, we'll look at it again with collaboration of Nigerians and with sensitizations. We'll debate it and we shall adopt whatever is reasonable.
The new proposed margin of preference is 40%, but this comes with certification.
In this scheme, to take advantage of the 40%, you have to be certified by SON under our MANCAP.
If we don't do what we have done in Executive Order 3, then the impact will not be felt.
The implementation of the Executive Order 3 begins with engagements like this, a mission that targets better placement for Nigeria in the next World Bank Ease of Doing Business ranking. Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
United Bank for Africa says it has made provisions for loan to 9 Mobile, that's formerly known as Etisalat Nigeria. The Tier 1 lender failed to give details of this provision, but it disclosed that it has a 38 billion naira exposure to the telecoms company, which is part of a syndicated loan with a consortium of 12 banks extended to 9 Mobile 4 years ago. About 2 weeks ago, another Tier 1 lender, that's Zenith Bank, said it had made a 30% loan provision to enable 9 Mobile prepare for new investors. The stock market's main index saw another round of declines today as major indices remained under sell pressure for short-term investors. Let's join BC Adebayo for a summary of today's transactions.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Reports. Tuesday's trading session ended with further profit taken in 4 major sectors of the market as short-term investors switch preference of stocks for cash. The market's total value went down by 52 billion naira to 12.465 trillion naira, while the broad index fell by 42 basis points. Decliners dominate the price chart a second time this week, with 26 losers led by Jaiz Bank, Okomu Oil and Julius Berger, against 14 gainers led mostly by mid-cap Champion Breweries. Transactions lowered to 144.45 million shares from 3,716 deals, while the shares of Fidelity, Zenith Bank and FCMB are the top 3 volume drivers. And that's it on the stock market reports. IMBC Adebayo.
Now let's see other major world markets. European market closed broadly negative, while U.S. markets rebounded a few hours ago. But investors are still evaluating the tension between U.S. and North Korea. Let's see how they all ended at the close of business. And that's Business News Tonight. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Melinda will be back with the rest of the news at 10.
You first. First Bank.
The World Bank's technical support projects has created thousands of jobs in the Niger Delta region in the last few years. And this is according to the World Bank team leader of State Employment and Expenditure for Results, Mr. Ismaila Sese, who led his team to the River State Government House in Port Harcourt to see Governor Nyesom Wike. Our correspondent, Emmanuel Ray, has this report.
A team from the World Bank, known as the State Employment and Expenditure for Results, C4, arrives at the River State Government House.
Your Excellency,
Its mission, to brief the governor on its work and ascertain the level of implementation of enumerated projects.
You may be already aware.
The team leader, Ismaila Sise, informs the governor that 5,500 jobs have been created for youths in the state, with another 5,000 to be delivered by October.
The C4 project, Your Excellency may be already aware, has been in place for some few years and has specific objectives of enhancing the generation of employment, for youths in the Niger Delta state, with Rivers as being one of 4 states. You have Edo, Bayelsa, and Delta also included.
While commending the World Bank team for efforts at reducing unemployment in the state, Governor Wike points out that no state government can survive strictly on revenue allocations from the federal government.
The government does not have all the funds to carry out projects that its citizens will expect. When you see an advantage from somewhere, you must make sure that it does not slip up. You have to see that you get it for the benefit of the state.
And then the governor takes on some government officials for going ahead to sign agreements on behalf of the state with the financial institution behind his back.
You civil servants have a way you cause problem for us. But you see, you may be shocked of what I'm saying now. You may be shocked that, well, I'm not aware. And that is why when they want to do one or two things very funny, and when I know it, that's okay, that is not the way it's going to work.
Governor Wike also ordered the release of 35 million naira counterpart funding to access the $3 million grant from the World Bank, which is scalable to as much as $10 million for the state. The World Bank intervention program has been extended to September 2019. Emmanuel Irei, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10. It's a full house at the Super Eagles camp ahead of Friday's 2018 World Cup qualifiers against the indomitable Lions of Cameroon. That's on Sports News. Join us again.